As we celebrate Nigeria's democratic journey, some say that there have been wins, but many have argued that our democracy is tainted with flaws of corruption, political and electoral illiteracy. Now, looking at the current political landscape of Nigeria with concerns over the possibility of a one-party state, we're now confronted with serious questions such as, is democracy truly serving the Nigerian people? Is our political structure delivering justice, accountability, and real representation?
Well, this special Democracy Day conversation is not just about looking back, it's about taking stock of where we are. From the weakened opposition parties that we see now to rising public distrust in electoral processes and a growing sense of alienation among citizens, the Nigerian democracy faces urgent challenges. Well, joining us to take time to unpack these issues are indeed prominent PDP member in Lagos State. We do have Mr. Funso Doherty, who's joining us. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you.
And of course, we do have seasoned journalist and of course public affairs analyst, one who definitely played a major role in, we could say, the former governor of Lagos State, talking about Mr. Kiwumi Ambode, and you played that role of the chief press secretary. And not just that,
absolutely,
played many other roles as well. We do have of course, he's a man you know so well, Mr. Habib Aruna, who joins us here.
Do you think that this might be some sort of...
This is very interesting because
prophetic meeting.
We were looking to have both of you...
Happy Democracy Day.
Thank you, thank you. We're looking to have the both of you on the same table, and it's just happened on today's edition.
Yep,
I'm going to start off first because my focus, I don't know about Oli, but my focus would really be about the subnationals. Most times we always talk about the federal government. We also talk about the presidency, how policies are not trickling down from the top. But in 26 years, can we beat our chest to say that the subnationals have done fantastically well in ensuring that the dividends of democracy is meted out to its citizens? I'm going to start with you first, Mr. Funso Doherty.
Okay, thank you. So it's an interesting question. Can we say they've done fantastically well? I think if you ask 10 people, you'll get, 10 same answers that no, we don't think they've done fantastically well. And, primarily, if you look at, the whole notion of democracy, which this present dispensation started in '99, I think there are a few positive things we can point to, but I think on the whole, and on the balance of things, I would say that, we have a lot to be disappointed about. First is that, well, we must acknowledge that, well, we are still one country, so we must give thanks for that. We are still actually practicing the democracy, i.e. we have not gone back to military. So again, we must be thankful for that.
Even though some sectors of society will not be happy about that.
Yeah, well,
those who have been clamoring for something different.
Return, yes,
exactly.
Perhaps. But, we know what we went through in the last dispensation of military. So the fact that we're a democracy today, helps. There are also one or two pockets we can point to, things like the telecom industry and so on and so forth, where we can say, we've seen some progress. But on the whole, when you think about what is the primary purpose of governance, and democracy is a form of governance, right? So the primary purpose of governance is welfare and security of the people. So if you look at it today on all of those fronts, on security, can we say we're in a good place? I don't think so. On welfare, which touches a lot of people, if it's the rate of poverty, if it is the quality of education, just in the past few weeks, we're talking about the kind of WAEC results that we saw where more people failed than passed from the Lagos State public schools. You talk about JAMB. Think about the health care that people experience. Think about our health indices, which, given our population, when you look at global health indices, they are actually skewed downwards because of Nigeria's figures, right? Because we have challenging health indices, whether it's maternal mortality, childhood mortality, and all of these things that bear on the quality of life of the people. So, at the end of the day, when you think about the welfare of the people, the lives of the people, the quality of the people, for all the time that we've spent, for all the resources that have been deployed, for all the shenanigans and machinations in the political space, we really have to say that the outcome in terms of real governance and in terms of the lives of the people leaves a whole lot to be desired.
Right. All right, thank you for laying the groundwork, speaking about the different sectors. In fact, we have spoken about health earlier, and looking at the fact that what
scary.
we have is 5% allocation in the budget, whereas there was an agreement in Abuja for 15%, but we're still there at 5%. The number of private health centers, the health centers that are very poorly managed, it's not really a great sight. Yeah. But I want Mr. Aruna to also share his thought with us. There are those who argue that maybe the democracy as it ought to be, should start with a redefining of what our structure currently is. For example, 36 states constantly going to the center, aligning themselves with the center every month to be able to survive, and that if we're going to be able to run some sort of a true democracy, we might need to revisit that structure where every state is dependent on the center. Do you agree with that?
I will depart sharply from what Mr. Doherty said. I think there's need to celebrate the father, the military, and the barracks. They need to celebrate because there is some form of freedom of expression, of association. The media is still free. You know, I always believe one thing, that democracy is a journey, it's not a destination. And the problem started from Mr. Obasanjo. I was in the media. I voted for Abiola on June 12th. I was in Kano. I saw what happened. The Hausas, everybody voted for Abiola. They keep behind this picture. Later, me and one guy that was interested in what was going on, we went around the town to where Tofa voted. Abiola won. You know, then what now happened thereafter? When the military were leaving, the deputy to Abdul Salami, Admiral Ahigbe, invited some journalists to the VI, officers' mess. One of my boss, MD, was there. Ahigbe told them in confidence, gentlemen, the military is interested in this transition. Want to make Obasanjo our own Mandela. In other words, they were interested in the process. Election is not just one day thing, it's a process. So implicitly, OBJ was supported and they won the election. And there was this cry by both the civil society and concerned Nigerians. And Obasanjo should institutionalize, our institution should be strong. Make our institution strong. That was the beginning of the problem. Obasanjo had a similar opportunity for the former head of state, respected, very influential, and very audacious. That was the beginning of our problem. The first US president, George Washington, because of his nature and contribution to the way the system emerged, there was no anywhere in the US Constitution that term limit was indicated because of George Washington. But the man served for 2 terms. And when he was growing, his address to the American people is a classic. We must set a foundation. There's no foundation by Obasanjo. What we are seeing now, the declaration of emergency in River State, was done in Plateau and Ekiti by Obasanjo. So I'm saying that there should be a foundation. Obasanjo was a PDP candidate. And unfortunately, Doherty is in PDP now. So they should share part of the blame of where we are. We're talking about the subnationals, the state government and local government. There's no way you can look at Abuja. During the Second and Third Republic, the governors were powerful. At the same time, subservient to the state assemblies, accountable to the state assembly. It's on states. Different party controls the executive and legislature. But in this republic, the same party control it. The governors have the assemblies in their pocket. There's no accountability, no transparency, and it's affecting governance. So I am disturbed, but I think that's some people, for example, in this republic, like this man sitting down, a discovery. People that have integrity, people that are honest, people that can serve, but the system has not allowed them to be there.
Talking about the system now, 26 years and we're still counting. I mean, Mr. Doherty, do you think these 26 years has done good to the reforms, rather, that we've had has been better off for Nigeria's democracy? We just had a guest who joined us, Zeal. He had talked about the Constitution possibly needing a reform because it doesn't fit what we are currently, faced with. So do you think, going forward, this is 26, before we know we're going to be 27 and it's still counting, though many leaders have said that we're still very young, but would justice be met with the current constitution that Nigeria abides by or to?
Okay, so before I touch on your question, my brother started off by saying he would differ sharply with me. But I didn't actually hear where he differed sharply with me.
He said the military should be the barracks. I wanted to celebrate.
No.
And I said, no, it's a journey, it's not a destination. I should not conclude yet that it's not working.
I started off by saying there are a couple of things we can celebrate. That the military, we are in democracy, we are still one country. That's where I started. But anyway, it's fine. So,
reforms.
Reforms and the Constitution. Look,
does it work for Nigeria's democracy?
Look, at the end of the day, a lot of people have a lot of issues with the Constitution. And part of the issues is that, it was developed sort of under the military. There's a unitary philosophy that permeates through what should be a federalist kind of document. And therefore, we have a lot of inconsistencies that show up in practical governance. I am one of the key proponents of true federalism and the fact that, whatever we define the federating units as, they should in fact be federating units, and that we should have true separation of powers between the federal and the federating units, and that those should be established and maintained. And the states should not be servants of the center. There are cases when the state will differ from the center, and they should have to be able to represent their people at the center, in fact, and advocate on the part of their people. Now, having said that, I think that ultimately, and the Constitution is a living document. It's not a document that you draft once and forever in place. There are amendments, there are processes, and so on. And so even our Constitution is undergoing change as we speak. Now, we can argue as to whether that pace of change is quick enough, whether the process is, cumbersome, and so on. But the truth of the matter is that, we have a Constitution today. Given the Constitution that we have, granted it's not perfect, are we governing the best way we can with the Constitution that we have? That's another question you can ask, right? So even within the present Constitution, are people doing what they have the freedom to do in terms of governing well for the interests of the people? And I think there's still a problem there. And so I think that we can talk about the Constitution, the issues there are valid, and we must talk about them, and we must advance the cause of constitutional reform, but we must not allow it to distract us from the fact that, governance needs to improve, both at the federal and at the subnational level. And we can then see, or where we will see the outcome of that governance is in the lives of the people. It doesn't matter how long we talk. It doesn't matter the list of things that we lay out, that we've done or not done. At the end of the day, everything resolves in the lives of the people. And that is the yardstick by which we have to measure it.
All right, let's talk about politics now. Political parties. In 1999, 26 years ago, your party was the vehicle by which President Olusegun Obasanjo came into power. Today, 26 years later, PDP is meant to be a viable opposition, but it's been fraught with a lot of challenges. In recent times, we've seen certain key members moving to the All Progressives Congress, which has then birthed the argument about one-party state. Some speaking for it, some speaking against it, others saying there's no problem with it. The APC welcomes all these opposition members. In fact, the FCT minister has recently been told that when he's ready to join the Progressives, he's welcome to the All Progressives Congress. Meanwhile, there are those within your party who have just left and have said that they are coming to destroy the structure of the party in Lagos State like Jando. So what do you make of the APC as a viable opposition? And do you worry about...
PDP.
Sorry, the PDP, thanks for that. What do you make of the PDP as a viable opposition? And do you share the same sentiment with those who worry about Nigeria sliding into a one-party state?
I think you were prescient in that slip or that mistake you made. APC will be an opposition party soon. But having said that, look, you know, we have to distinguish between the noise and the reality, and know where one stops and the other begins, right? So yes, it is true that people are defecting. They are defecting not just from PDP, they are defecting from Labour Party and moving to APC. And we see that. It's not something that we don't see, we have never seen before, mid-cycle, right? Because there will be those people that will go because they believe that, you know, they are out of power and, you know, goodies flow on the side in which, you know, power lies. You know, so you have some of that. And then some will go by way of natural disagreements and so on. We'll have that, right? And in our climate, it is more likely to see more people leaving the opposition to the ruling party than to see people leaving the ruling party to the opposition. Right? So that's number one. Number two is that there's no party that doesn't have internal wranglings, right? So even the ruling party, I think it is evident that, you know, they also have issues internally that they are grappling with. And we see that a lot in Lagos State and in some of the developments that we've seen, even just this year, from the beginning of the year, State House of Assembly, to the most recent issues, you know, surrounding, you know, the perceived distance that has emerged between the governor and the president, supposedly. So, you know, we see these things from time to time. You are more likely to see it in full bloom more in the opposition than in the ruling party, because the ruling party is in power, right? And so they have the ability to, you know, try and keep their house in order or to paper things over. At the end of the day, let us remember that we are, again, this is a journey. So the dust will settle. We will have some of these movements. But when the movements settle, at the end of the day, are we going to have a one-party state? I don't think we will ever have a one-party state. We would never have a one-party state. The question is, how many opposition parties will you have? What is the size of the opposition parties? Will they be united? And so on and so forth. We will never have a one-party state, despite the best efforts of those who might want to make it a one-party state. It's not possible, right? So at the end of the day, you know, you will always have a situation going to an election where you will have the incumbent and you will have alternatives to the incumbent. And the people will be faced with a choice. Do they want the incumbent, or do they want one of the alternatives to the choice, one of the alternative choices? Now, if the alternatives are united and it's one alternative, it makes it easier for the people to make that choice. But people will always be presented with that choice. So it is maybe tempting to get caught up in the headlines that we see today, but I can tell you for a fact that by the time the next election rolls around, APC will be here, PDP will be here, and there may be other significant parties as well, and we will go to the polls on February or March in 2027. We will go to the polls, and the people will be faced with a choice, and they will make a choice. So we can speculate all we like today about, is it going to one-party state? Is the opposition dead? It's all talk. I can tell you for a fact that PDP is here, PDP stands strong, and I'm sure it will not only be PDP that will be in opposition, and we will go to the polls in 2027, and the people will be given a choice.
All right. Mr. Aruna, I want us to look at, still under the brink of democracy, 26 years. Two things, ideology.
Well, I'm not going to touch on what you said.
All right, go ahead.
It's important, you know, because democracy will only flourish if you have a multi-party system in the continent of Nigeria, with its peculiarities, nature, and character. I don't think Nigeria will have a one-party state. I'm a Kakari member of APC, but I'm a journalist. I'm very objective. And you guys know that.
Absolutely.
When I speak on national issues. That's why I appreciate the likes of Mr. Doherty the last time he came out to contest. You know, he shook up and animated the process. People know that, yes, there's hope in the country. But his party is in a mess. his party is in disarray. His party is not united. That was agreed to by every member of the party, Sri Lamido, and the rest. You know, we have a man that is in his party, at the same time on the employment of Mr. President. He even said yesterday that no matter the coalition and their efforts, they will lose in the next election. So let's face that reality. Don't generalize these things. The reality on ground presupposes that PDP is in a big mess. When we talk of Lagos State, that no structure. So how are they going to do it? We have to contest under an umbrella, not a platform. You know, it be in our best interest for us to for a party structure and opposition coalition to challenge President Tinubu. You know, but the way it's going,
I do not believe that.
No. PDP is even saying that they're not interested in the coalition talks. You know, how are they going to do it? A party that failed to punish a stubborn member, a recalcitrant member, you need to ask yourself, you can't be in PDP, destroying the party, and working to promote the interest of Mr. President. So people like him should be told, frankly, what are you doing about it? You are not organized. You don't have a structure. The members are not even, they don't even know what they're doing.
But the chieftain was here yesterday and he disagreed with that.
No, let me finish. I've been telling to my...
Go ahead.
I don't have my opinion, not to facts. The facts are there. You know, I was thinking that, because I don't think it would be in our interest to affect governance and democracy if we allow one party state. And that's why I'm very much disposed to the idea of parties coming together in a third world democracy. You cannot fight a ruling party by going it alone. Not like a PDP that is rudderless. So there should be a platform of people coming together with an umbrella and being front to themselves. I think we should lead the way for people like Obi, people like Doherty, that are credible. I'm on this very serious note. That is the only way that Nigeria will show, yes, these guys are credible. We can support them, we can believe in them, and vote for them.
All right, let's have Mr. Doherty respond to that.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm glad my brother prefaced his comments by saying he's a card-carrying member of APC. So, as Yoruba people will say, Kini Baso, right? This is the narrative.
And I will say I'm a journalist.
Hold on. You spoke, now let me speak. So this is the narrative that is being put out there. And what else do we expect? Because what people have to ask themselves is, when they say PDP is in disarray, you hear people trying to say that every day. Most often, people in the ruling party and people affiliated with the ruling party. The question you ask yourself is that, why PDP? Why do people feel that PDP has to be weakened? Why must this narrative about PDP being in tatters be advanced? Why? Why?
It is in the interest of the opposition.
Yeah, because they know that their biggest threat is the PDP. They talk about, yes, it should be multi-party, yes, we should have coalition. The coalition may happen, it may not happen. But the PDP is there. And they know that the PDP is their biggest threat. And so we are 2 years to election. All this is stories. I'm just saying, let's wait. In 2 years' time, we'll be at the election. All these things that we are saying is speculation. PDP is weak. It cannot come out in the... Just wait.
All right.
When 2027 comes, we shall see.
Okay.
I think in final thoughts, because we have to get to the next segment. Mr. Doherty, in terms of politics and political advancement of Nigeria's democracy, what are some of the changes you're hoping to see, and how can we encourage more people to be involved in our democratic process?
Well, I mean, there are a number of changes that are required. There are changes to electoral reform. We need perhaps changes to the Electoral Act to strengthen the electoral process. That is the process of voting, the process of collating votes, and all of that, to ensure that that process has greater integrity. As we do that, people will be more inclined to participate in the elections, because part of the problem that we have is a problem of low participation. In Lagos State, in the last elections, we had also about 15% of registered voters voting, not of the population, no, of registered voters. 7 million voters, we had about 1 million votes, right? So those numbers are abysmal, and they had been coming down, by the way, so that's the lowest, right? So, and it's because of a disenchantment and a disillusionment with the electoral processes, right? So we have a lot of work to do as the political class, and people have to believe that, you know, they have alternatives that they want to fight for on the day of the election, that they want to go out and support, and that they want to defend, whose interests they want to defend, because they believe that those are the people who should govern them. And I think that a lot of us are working to meet those aspirations of the people. And I think it is a work in process, as we say. But we have a lot of work to do, I think, as politicians. But I also say that the people also themselves have to want it. The people have to want it.
Mr. Aruna, let's piggyback to one of my questions I wanted to ask earlier. In line with democracy, 26 years, do you think that a sense of political parties having ideologies has also been the bane of what we have today in our democratic setting? Because it seems like ideologies are no longer, in quotes, what is driving political parties. It's just a case of what people call wanting power, instead of having ideologies that would move both the system, the benefits of democracy, especially to the people.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. If you look at the politics of the First Republic, Second Republic, or semblance of ideology, can easily differentiate between the policy guiding the operations of the action group, Fourth Republic, Unity Party, Second Republic, and the MPC and MPN, Second Republic. But this time around, you cannot pinpoint to anything guiding them. You know, so I agree with you that in most cases, our politicians are opportunistic. You know, they're not pragmatic. And in this republic, the Fourth Republic, the first president, Obasanjo, did not particularly lay good foundation for people to have that conviction that I believe in welfareism, I believe in free education, I believe in free ed. Those things were not there.
But many will argue with you that what Obasanjo started, former President Obasanjo, what he started can also be traced down the line to what we also saw in President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, where institutions were built under their watch and then was continued, especially under Buhari when he came into power.
Ask any man today on the street, what does PDP stand for? What does APC stand for? They don't know.
How about Labour Party? What do they stand for? NMP?
I don't know. They're also in disarray. You know, money is also rudderless. You know, many factions, Abure, Nenadi Usman, and the rest. You know, so I think the politicians have a role to play, as he said. You know, he's a politician. They have a big role to play in making sure that things are done. But my position has always been, if there is no free and fair elections, you cannot have vibrant democracy or good governance. Nigeria should insist on free and fair, transparent elections. The process itself must be transparent and credible. People will be interested. So they will know that these political actors, 3-4 years' time, they will come back to us to seek a new mandate. If that is not done, bros, we are deceiving ourselves.
Hopefully without
that must be free and fair elections in Nigeria.
Wrap and T-shirt.
When we talk about, all right, you wanted to add something?
Well, I just want to add, I don't want to come across as a defender of Obasanjo, but I think that, you know, we must give credit, some credit where credit is due. I think that between 1999 and 2007, we made a lot of progress as a nation. We made a lot of progress as a nation. We got debt forgiveness.
Yes.
We accumulated reserves, even though oil prices were not as high as they became subsequently. The whole telecoms revolution came out at that time. You know, in 99, it would cost you about $2,000 to get a mobile phone. Well, you remember that time, not mobile phone. 160,000 naira. It was $2,000 equivalent. By 2007, when Obasanjo was going, you could get, by 2,000 naira, you get a SIM, right? So and then you had, unlike now, when we have this Japa syndrome, we had a reverse Japa syndrome by the mid-2000s. People were coming out of the best schools in America and the UK, and were coming back because they believed that this was the place to be. Right? So now, he's not a saint. There are many things we can point to that perhaps he didn't do well, but I think there's an element of credit that we must give to him. And many would argue, by the way, that actually our governance has been downhill since that era.
All right, Mr. Doherty, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Thank you so much, Mr. Aruna, for joining us. There's much to be expected and hoped for when we look at Nigeria's journey, where we're coming from. There have been gains. There have also been struggles. We're hoping that we can consolidate on the gains and learn from the mistakes to ensure that in another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we're telling a different story from today. Thank you so much for joining us, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.